Finally, let's go back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs, if you're looking to bet them to win the Super Bowl, 11-1, best number you're going to find to win the division. Plus 190 is the best number that you're going to find. And of course, as you would imagine, every single year for as long as he's in existence, Patrick Mahomes is going to be one of the short shots to win the MVP. Best number you can find on him is 9-1. Stephen, the big news here, as we always know, well, I mean, look, at the top, everything stayed the same. Andy Reid coming into his 10th season, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator. They did bring back they brought Matt Nagy in as quarterbacks coach, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Steve Spagnuolo is the defensive coordinator here. The big news was who went out, not necessarily who came in. And who went out was Tyreek Hill, Tyrann Mathieu, Melvin Ingram, Charvarius Ward. You're talking about 4 starters out the door here for this team, Stephen, that when you look at what came in, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Justin Reed, the out the door is much more than the in the door for this Chiefs team.
I agree. I think we mentioned the Chargers are taking advantage of a rookie quarterback contract and the ability to bolster a roster around that cheap quarterback price. I think we're seeing the start of the tail end of the spectrum with the Chiefs and the challenges of dealing with a quarterback making mega money in Patrick Mahomes. His cap hits are going up into the $30 and $40 million ranges over the next couple of years. They weren't able to keep Tyreek Hill or sign him to an extension because of that. And I am not a believer that replacing him with Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju Smith-Schuster, I do like Sky Moore long-term, but I don't think any of that replaces the production that Tyreek Hill provided. So I think that we are looking at a situation with the Chiefs that it was an offense. If you look on paper, Matt, they were elite again. They were number one across the board in pretty much every advanced stat. But they had the fewest drives in the NFL. They had the fewest opportunities. So what was the reason for that? And I think it's because it was the defense. This defense was 9th in total efficiency and 12th against the pass in 2020. They dropped all the way down to 24th in total defensive efficiency and 22nd against the pass. Now, how are they still able to get as far as they did to another AFC Championship game? It was because the defense was top 10 in third down and red zone. So those are 2 stats that are not sticky year over year. Those are stats that tend to have regression. So if you're asking me, is this defense more likely to be a bottom half defense that has its red zone and third down regress to bottom half? Or is this more likely to be a red zone and third down top 10 defense that's more likely for its overall offense to regress to top 10 as well? I'm saying the former, not the latter. I don't have faith in this defense. I think it's more likely that you are bottom half in the league in overall defense and your red zone and third down regresses downward to that point. So I think that this is a team that's kind of similar to Denver in that their offense is really going to have to carry them again. It's a good thing that they're a very advanced offense and they're an elite offense, but I certainly think that it is nowhere close that overall, looking at these rosters, the Chargers have the better roster.
If you look, and yes, it is a big deal that Tyreek Hill is gone. What people aren't talking about is what they lost on the defensive side of the ball. And you lose Charvarius Ward, arguably, actually not arguably, your best corner. You lose Tyrann Mathieu, your best playmaker, your best turnover guy. Melvin Ingram, you lose as well. Now, they drafted well. First round, Trent McDuffie at corner. He's going to have to start as a rookie. George Karlaftis at defensive end. He's going to have to start. Sky Moore at wide receiver in the second round. He's going to have to start. Brian Cook at safety. He also is going to have to start. So you're looking at, 4 rookies that are going to have to play significant roles for this team. And look, have we seen rookies come in and just be studs from the get-go? We certainly have, and more times here in recent years than we have in years past. But that's going to be asking a lot from this squad to get all of the production that you were getting from Tyreek Hill and Charvarius Ward and Tyrann Mathieu and Melvin Ingram with a bunch of rookies, and so for me, that is one of the things that was a little bit scary for me with this team. If you look down, I like what they did in the draft. They got a linebacker in the third round, Leo Chenal. They got another corner in Joshua Williams in the fourth round. They got Darian Kennard, an offensive guard, in the fifth round, who might actually end up having to start if Lucas Niang can't pass block better. Like, he allowed 5 or more pressures in 3 of the 7 full game. He's always injured for one thing as well. But when he was in there, he allowed a ton of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And so they might have to start a 5th-round rookie on the offensive line at some point down the line as well. So I just look at this as, hey, are they good? Yes, they're good. You have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. You still have Travis Kelce. You still have Andy Reid calling plays. You still have some, but I think that some of these rookies are actually going to come in and be pretty good. The question for me too, Steve, is like, we don't know what we have in Juju Smith-Schuster or Marquez Valdez-Scantling anymore, right? I mean, like, Marquez Valdez-Scantling never got a true opportunity in Green Bay because Aaron Rodgers didn't trust him. Well, is there a reason for that? Is it just Aaron Rodgers is a giant, douchebag or something, and like he just hated Marquez Valdez-Scantling for no reason? Or is there a reason why he didn't want to throw to him very often? And if that's the case, then it's probably the same thing is going to happen in Kansas City. Juju Smith-Schuster, he was good when he was healthy. He hasn't been healthy in a couple of seasons. We have no idea what he's going to look like when he's running against the ones out there in regular season games. And so I just don't know where the offensive production from a loss of Tyreek Hill and even the loss of Demarcus Robinson, a bit role guy there for them in the receiving core. I just don't know if this is going to be enough to kind of counteract what the rest of this division has done.
So I think that this offense last year had to be extremely patient. And I think it's because defenses started playing more two deep safety. They weren't blitzing as much. So they had more men in coverage, which really dropped their explosive play rate. If you look at the Chiefs' explosive play rate by year, over the past few years, we're looking at a team that was first, fourth, and second from 2018 to 2020 and dropped all the way down to 19th last year. Only 12% of Patrick Mahomes' attempts in the first 3 quarters produced explosive gains. That ranked 21st in the NFL. So are they going to be more explosive losing Tyreek Hill? I don't think so. I mean, they're going to have to be patient and methodical in their drives, it seems, if defenses are going to continue to run 2 high safeties against this offense. So, and with the defense that they have, I mean, this almost feels like the Denver team a year ago, right? Where the Denver offense moved the ball well. They didn't score as many points as the Chiefs, but they moved the ball. They were methodical. They ate up a lot of clock on offense, but that led to less offensive opportunities and put their defense in a spot where they didn't have to be on the field for very long. The Chiefs did the same thing. They just scored a hell of a lot more than the Broncos offense did. So I think that if they don't find explosive plays with this new cast of pass catchers and Travis Kelce entering his age 33 season, they're kind of having to thread the needle more. I think that they're kind of limiting the range of outcomes from what we saw with Chiefs teams a few years ago.
And really this defensive line is something to look at here because it's a defensive line where you look, Chris Jones is awesome, right? Like that, there's no doubt about that I'm not going to argue. But the edge defenders for this team have been atrocious. Like since 2020, they're the 28th ranked edge team in the NFL. If you take a look, the defensive front was 20th in pressure rate in 2021. They were 28th in EPA per run play. If you remember, the big thing about this team was everybody was just running at will against this team at the beginning of the season last year. And you look and you say, okay, Chris Jones is still there. That's awesome to have him there and have him on the inside. Frank Clark is a perennial disappointment. And then you look at Karlaftis as a rookie who's going to have to step in as a rookie and make a big impact. Now, can he do that? Of course. Again, Micah Parsons last year was one of those impactful defensive players in all the NFL as a rookie. So it's not to say that Karlaftis can't be that guy. I'm just saying it is a lot on a rookie to have to be that guy because it's not it would be nice if Karlaftis is a big contributor. It would be nice if he can get some pressure on the quarterback. No. He's going to have to. It is a must for him as a rookie because, again, we've seen it. We already know Frank Clark can't do it. He can't do it on a consistent basis. And so Chris Jones can only do so much from the interior. That, remember, they tried to pop him outside last year, and that's when everyone just ran at will against this team. They had to move him back inside, and then teams finally couldn't run anymore. So it is a lot of pressure on a rookie in Karlaftis to come in and have to be that guy. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball. Reed is new at safety. McDuffie's going to have to start at rookie at corner, a new linebacker in Carter. So there's a lot of fresh faces as well on this team. And so I'm almost more concerned. I know it's crazy to say when you lose a guy like Tyreek Hill and all that, but like I'm almost more concerned about this team on the defensive side of the ball than I am on the offensive side of the ball.
I agree with that. I mean, they have Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, he's still going to be, on paper, one of the most efficient quarterbacks, if not the most efficient quarterback in the league. We saw that last year. Like, they were still at the top of the league in success rate and EPA. It was just they weren't explosive. So you're threading the needle a little bit when you're playing fewer offensive possessions than you were in previous years. And my biggest concern on defense is the secondary and the pass coverage for them. They have a lot of good receivers in their division they are going to have to cover. So I have no doubts about the offense being at or near the top of the league again. I just think that they have to be really efficient, Matt. They have to take advantage of fewer offensive drives than other teams are getting in the NFL that are more explosive.
But let's talk about the real thing here, and it's not the defense, and it's not the offense. It is how incredibly difficult this schedule is, and it is the most difficult schedule in all of the NFL. And this is their week 1 to 9 games here, guys, and I am not even joking. Weeks 1 to 9, now they do get a bye week in week 8, so they can regroup a little bit. But their games 1 to 9 go Cardinals, Chargers, Colts, Bucks, Raiders, Bills, Niners, Titans. That is their first 8 games of the season. And every one of those teams projected to have at least a 500 record or better. Multiple of those teams projected to go to the playoffs. Chargers, Colts, Bucks, Bills, Titans. Then you get a little bit of a respite in week 10 with Jacksonville, only to hit a stretch of Chargers, Rams, Bengals, Broncos. I mean, Stephen, we could be talking about by week 14 that the final 4 weeks of the season for the Kansas City Chiefs don't even matter because they can't make the playoffs if things go south, right? If they play to a mediocre, I don't even think they have to play to their floor. I think they could just play under par here. And if that's the case, we could be talking about their season being done by week 14.
I'm glad you talked about the stretch of games after the bye week because all anybody's talking about is the beginning of the schedule and haven't mentioned that 3-game stretch in the middle of the season as well. And, man, it is tough. This is part of the reason why I'm betting on the Chargers to win this division at almost plus 250 odds. So the other thing I wanted to look at here is the odds on the Chiefs to make the playoffs, which sounds crazy on its face, but we talked about the schedule, we talked about the defensive issues, and we talked about the struggles with incorporating explosive plays again. Plus 180 to miss the playoffs. How does that strike you?
No, I actually think that they could be third in this division, and it would not shock me at all if they were fourth. And I know that sounds crazy, and we're talking about the Chiefs, and I know it's Andy Reid in his 10th season, and Eric Bieniemy's still there, and Patrick Mahomes is still there, and Travis Kelce's still there. I get it. I just what Tyreek Hill brings on the offensive side of the ball, the production that he's been able to put together, the defense having to rely so heavily on so many new faces and rookies and things like that, I just do believe that there is a scenario in which we're looking at like an 8-9 team. And I know people are going to be like, are screaming right now, listening to this, or if they're watching us on YouTube, are probably hitting the down button or whatever. But I mean, it's just, I think that I don't think it is out of the range of possibilities here that we're looking at an under 500 team.
Fourth in the division would shock me because I think the Raiders are just a mediocre roster. But the other thing that we should mention is just how fortunate they were with injuries last year. They had the least number of games lost to injury, the second healthiest on offense and the third healthiest on defense per Football Outsiders. That's hard to replicate year over year, man. Like, I know the Titans lost a ton of players last year and still were the 1 seed in a down AFC or a very competitive AFC, however you want to look at it. But that's not easy to do what the Titans did last year. And if the Chiefs get hit with the injury bug with all of the potential red flags we've talked about, I think you can kiss the division goodbye. And like we talked about, they are rallying for a wild card spot where they're going to have to win on the road to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, we take a look here, and yes, it is still one of the short shots to win the to win the MVP, and rightfully so, because I don't think, even with us being kind of down on this team, Stephen, I don't think that it is out of the range of possibilities for Patrick Mahomes to still put up, video game numbers, because, we see a lot of times as well, yes, the offense could be humming and him put up video game numbers, but we've also seen where, hey, look, what if this defense does struggle a little bit? What if this team does struggle a little bit? They're playing from behind more. They're throwing more. They're whatever. Like, I'm not willing to bet anything against Patrick Mahomes from a numbers standpoint, because I think there's two different scenarios in which you could get kind of screwed on that, because they could perform above what we believe as expectation this season, or even falling short of that, they could still put up big numbers, because if you're trailing, you're passing a ton, and it's still Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, my concern is not necessarily yardage; it's points with the number of possessions they're going to have. Right, like they move the ball at will on offense. It's just they weren't. I'm a broken record at this point. Is the explosive plays, right? They're not getting chunk plays as often as they did in years past. So
10.5 wins is what they're lined at.
Ooh, yeah, I think that's a good number. I mean, I'm not betting the over. I'll say that. As crazy as that sounds, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, but I'm not interested. I'm guessing the over is a little bit juiced.
No, it's even on both sides. I think the interesting thing for me would be, if I wanted to bet this team, I think I would bet the alt numbers on this team, because
that's interesting.
It's like, if you think, hey man, you're crazy, the Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs, like over 11.5 is plus 160, right? Like, so if you get the same performance out of this team last year as you got, this year as you got last year, you're getting plus 160 on the number. Or an under 9.5 pays at plus 225, Stephen. So they could still have a winning record. They could go 9-8, and you could cash a plus 225 ticket on this Chiefs team. Is it out of the realm of possibility for this team to still have a winning record and not live up to what I think the under 9.5 at plus 225 is super, super interesting.
Yeah, I don't hate it. A little half unit there, something like that. Don't hate it at all. This team it's crazy to think that the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes led team has such a wide range of outcomes, but we saw that on a week-to-week basis last year, and they hit enough of their ceilings down the stretch to still get into the playoffs and get to the AFC title game. But they are one of the more fascinating teams in the league coming into this season. That is for sure. And I think that's just always going to be the case when you've had an elite quarterback at a young age and we're able to build around a cheap price tag. And now you're at the other end of that and have to try and hit on some middle tier free agents and some draft picks to replace the production that you lost on the rest of the roster.